Hey everybody, it's me again. Don't mind me pacing nervously, it's a habit of mine, but I'm just following up, I guess, on more thoughts on the Ukraine situation. Of course, just to immediately make the necessary caveats, I'm not a professional of any kind. I'm not a scholar of any kind. My opinion means nothing, and you may or may not even find it very informative or interesting. So, just to let you know immediately that I'm aware of those things, and it is what it is. But I'm I don't know. It's nice to have an outlet, I guess, is what I'm getting at. Because I've been thinking a lot about it. It's kind of big news, obviously, but especially I follow stuff like this anyways, so it's just really been taking up a lot of mental resources for me. So, this whole thing has been fucking wild. When I first posted the first video I did, I really didn't expect this, because I had been watching all sorts of actual experts talking about the topic, and they were saying that would be a terribly bad idea for Russia. Surely they're not going to do that. Even if they were to push in further, then of course they already had, ages ago when they took Crimea, and I've been putting the little green men, as they're called, in Donbass. They were saying that worst case scenario, they might push in up to the Dnieper River and then just probably call it there. So the least expected option of just straight up trying to take fucking Kyiv turning out to be what actually happened was a bit of a surprise, at least for me. And I guess a lot of people, but here we are. I've been having a really hard time, frankly, with the partially propaganda, partially just straight up fog of war situation, where there's just a lot of honestly straight up bullshit going around. Of course, Russia had to come up with some things to try to justify the invasion, and they were pretty obviously, some of them, absolute bullshit. And Ukraine, kind of playing the same game. Of course, they didn't need a reason for, defending themselves. But the Ghost of Kyiv, for example, probably not real. There was supposed footage and photos being shared around. Sorry, I should say. And of course, that came out to be video game footage, which even the creator admitted to, but the people sharing it didn't know or didn't say or didn't care. So there's a lot of shit like that going on. And of course you've got people who are on the Russian side of things, and they take Putin's words at face value, trust them completely, trust the state media and everything, and think that this whole thing is justified. You have the far left in America, some of whom are taking that position as well, because of the presence of, frankly, Nazi factions in the Ukrainian military, like Azov Battalion, as I had mentioned before. And so they also think that it was a good thing for this invasion to happen, and that, the denazification thing is actually going to happen, which it isn't. That was never Putin's intent, and honestly, anyone who believed that is a fucking idiot. And especially, something that bothers me about that, beyond, of course, everything else about it, I don't see how this invasion thing was ever going to denazify Ukraine. I mean, for a foreign power to come in and seize power by force and install a puppet government and then try to root out the political extremes of the country, honestly, who in their right mind thinks that that's the way to do it? Because essentially, at that point, what you're going to end up with is a fucking Nazi insurgency. You're going to end up with a whole bunch of people who aren't even that committed or even interested at all in the idea of this fucking racist ideology that would go ahead and join those racist groups anyways just because they want to fight off the foreign invaders. Like, we just got done with Afghanistan. Why do you want a European Nazi version of the fucking Taliban, idiot? But I digress. Yeah, just a lot of straight up bullshit going around, a lot of strong opinions based on things that are unconfirmed at this point. Especially, I know the first sort of 24 hours or so that this was going on, there had been reports of sounds of battle essentially in Odessa. And of course, people started saying, oh shit, Russian forces are in Odessa. What really happened was the Ukrainian Navy got attacked in Odessa, and there was some shelling, but there wasn't a major incursion of Russian ground forces in Odessa. And I even made the mistake of being like, oh shit, I'm hearing people say that the Russians are in Odessa. That means that they are in Odessa. Like, I didn't even think about the fact that it could be an unconfirmed rumor. And so I was like trying to ring the alarm bell. I'm like, oh fuck, it's happening. They're really coming in from all sides, trying to take the whole fucking thing. Which is not, they're coming in from a lot of sides and clearly not just sticking into the Donbass region. That's obvious at this point. But no, they weren't marching through the streets of Odessa or whatever. So yeah, you gotta be careful. There's a lot of just straight up misinformation coming around. Some of it is being intentionally propagated to try and push a propaganda agenda. And some of it is just straight up like things being misreported, mistranslated, rumors coming out and being shared around before they're confirmed or really investigated to any major extent. So, yeah, being as young as I am, which by the way, I'll be 27 in 2 days, as of recording this, it's March 1st. But, yeah, for me, this is like the first sort of major world conflict that's actually like starting as I'm an adult. Because of course, Afghanistan just ended, but that was like 20 fucking years. So I was a child when it started. Same with Iraq. So for me, this is a really new experience. And I'm kind of just wondering, like, is this normal that every time there's a war that kicks off like this, the first week or two or however long, it's just fucking impossible to know what's actually going on? Because honestly, like, that's been bothering me a lot. Like, I almost feel like we live in some kind of like post-truth nightmare dystopia where you just can't be informed anymore. Especially after the COVID situation where, you know, a sizable portion of my country especially, but also some other countries, people are saying that COVID-19 isn't real, the deaths are way overreported, which if the virus isn't real, who's dying anyways? But the deaths are completely falsified because the virus isn't real, or the vaccines are like some kind of ploy to sterilize and weaken the God-fearing Americans, or the masks are a population control experiment because the government wants to see if they can control you, and all kinds of crazy bullshit like that. And of course, you know, it's a virus. You can't see it with your bare, unmagnified eyes. The random American does not have an infectious disease lab that they can just, you know, they walk downstairs and they got the petri dishes and the fucking microscope and all that shit. So people can't see it with their own two eyes, and so they are kind of expected to take somebody's word for what's going on. And of course, you would hope that people would side with the CDC or the WHO or any of the myriad other health organizations and even their own local hospitals and shit over some random fucking whatever Joe Rogan asshole. But hold on a second. I'm going to have to record a second video because my fucking 10-minute time limit is almost up on this shit-ass phone. So I'll be right back. And we're live. Okay. So yeah, it seems like a thing now where there's a lot of things that are just so hard to figure out the truth about that are happening right now. And even when something becomes obvious, like with the sheer volume of pictures and videos and all of that shit coming out of Ukraine right now, where it's people are speaking Russian and Ukrainian in the videos, I mean, shit, honestly, this is kind of fucked up for me to admit, but I browse gore sites, and there's a lot of like pictures and videos of dead dudes in Russian military uniforms. Like I recognize EMR camo. So and they also have the newer patterns of AK, which I imagine Ukraine probably does not have the AK 100 whatever they're using now. The black polymer furniture and all that shit if you're a gun nerd. Anyways, there's just so many of these, and you can hear them speaking either Ukrainian or Russian, and it just seems a little too elaborate, and I don't know. It's clearly not fake to me, is what I'm saying. Like, you would have to suspend a lot of disbelief to still have this suspicion that what's going on in Ukraine right now is purely a story and nothing actually is happening. So clearly it's happening. We know that much. Or I would hope. There are a lot of people who still deny it. And the fact that we live in a world now where you can see all this evidence, people can deny it, and it's almost like, I don't know how to put it. In some ways, like with the way like deepfake technology is like becoming a thing now, and I mean, random ordinary assholes like me, if I really wanted to, I could have access to like some pretty decent like graphics generation technology. It wouldn't be Hollywood grade, of course, but you could fake some heavy shit and have it be like halfway convincing. And that worries me that's becoming so easy to do now. And at the same time, the fact that is becoming so easy to do now and probably will become more and more common is probably only driving people's complete and utter mistrust of anything they hear that doesn't immediately just confirm whatever they wanted to already believe. Because it seems to be the basis for what people decide is or isn't the truth anymore. Is it confirming what I want to hear? If yes, it's the truth. If not, it's definitely bullshit. And I don't know. It's really starting to worry me for our future as a planet, as a species, that's just kind of how things are. And yeah, I guess I'm wondering, for those of us who have lived on this planet longer and lived through more wars, is that just how it's always been, or is it like just uniquely fucked up now? Because please tell me it's always been this way, because if it's always been this way and yet the world still kind of functions, then that would do a lot to put me at ease, to reassure me that there's still going to be an Earth in 10, maybe 20 years. Because at the moment, like, the way everyone is just so fucking, I don't know, almost divorced from the truth, sometimes willfully, a lot of the times just unwillfully, because all of our governments just straight up fucking lie. I'm going to say that right now. Of course we've figured out by now that I don't support the Russian invasion. I also don't like the Nazis in Ukraine, and I'm not a huge fan of America. And so, of course, I'm going to state the obvious fact that the American government, the Ukrainian government, and the Russian government are all full of shit routinely. Especially the Americans and Russians, I'm going to say. I don't know at this point that the Ukrainians have too much motivation to lie anymore. They're being invaded right now. They already have the world's sympathy. So they don't really need to push that too hard. But Russia definitely has incentive to propagandize a whole lot of shit and straight up make up other things. And America just, America's allergic to telling the truth. Let's be real. Um, you may remember the WMDs in Iraq, for example, and how that turned out. So, yeah. Aside from that, I've also just been thinking about, I don't know. So I speak a little bit of Russian myself, not much at all. I wouldn't say I'm even conversational, let alone fluent. But, I speak a little bit of Russian. I have some Russian friends. And honestly, I feel like a lot of Americans are probably going to take the rather stupid and asshole-ish route of kind of blaming this whole thing on Russians in general as a people, which bothers the shit out of me. But of course, that's just kind of something we do. There's a lot of Americans who hate the fuck out of anyone from Iran, and yet they couldn't find Iran on a map. Couldn't tell you the first thing about it, just that they hate it. So that bothers me. I don't know if racist is necessarily the correct word for that, but it's definitely just an unfounded and pointless prejudice. Especially because, honestly, we as Americans should know as well as anybody that the government does not necessarily represent the people. Because if the American government wanted what we wanted or did what we told them to do, America would be a very different country. So we should know that we can't just look at the Russian government as it is and think, oh, that's how every Russian thinks. Obviously bullshit. A lot of Russians do not like Putin, especially after this. I mean, with the way that the sanctions are hitting, and I mean, come on, people's fucking kids are dying in this war. I saw a video where Ukrainians had captured at least part of a tank crew, and they were questioning them, and the one guy said he was 21 years old. That's hardly an adult. That's younger than me, and I still consider myself pretty much a kid. So, I mean, there are Russian families losing their children in this war, which I don't say as a way to trivialize what Ukraine is going through, because Ukraine obviously has it a million times worse. Actual civilians are getting caught in the crossfire, buildings are getting shelled, people's homes are just going up in smoke, sometimes with the people themselves still inside them, even children. If you look hard enough, you'll find pictures and videos of mangled children, elderly people who had nothing to do with any of this but just happened to live in Ukraine. So they obviously are going through hell, actual fucking hell. But what I am trying to get across is that this was not even a good thing to do for the Russian people. The Russian government is honestly expecting the people of Russia to foot the bill for this failed invasion and all of the sanctions. The ruble crashed hard, and interest rates are doubling, basically. And of course, that's not going to affect Putin very much, because he's the president. He's going to be fine. He's not going to have to worry about where his next meal comes from. He's not going to have to worry about making rent. Come on. But the average, ordinary, everyday Russian, the economy already sucked for them, and now it's way worse. So, yeah, war is hell, and a tragic, terrible thing. And I have not taken joy in any of this shit, and I hope that it's going to be over soon.